See, one thing I have realized is I always have to hire people smarter than me. Okay, because we are building a business, and we have a responsibility to our shareholders. We have to do innovation, and you can't do everything by yourself. So I'm always on the lookout for hiring or talking to people who are more intelligent than me, and then getting them into flexibles, because that means now they will do much better than I could, and the company will grow at a faster pace. The other learning is the work-life balance and family. A lot of people don't talk about it, but I think a founder's journey is extremely tiring and burning. And so, how you balance your physical and mental peace is very important. How do you stay physically fit and mentally fit is very important, because otherwise you could burn out very quickly. And typically there are more failures than success. So kind of keeping yourself physically fit, meditation, spending time with your family, they are all things that I put a lot of value on, because if I can't do that, and they are my co-passengers in this journey, right? My family. So ऐसा तो हो नहीं सकता कि आप बॉम्बे से दिल्ली ड्राइव कर रहे हो and you don't talk to your co-passenger. Then it's a very boring journey, right? And so keeping your family with you in the journey is extremely important. So that's my second learning: work-life balance and kind of mental fit, being mentally fit. जो macro cycle पहले 5-5 साल में आता था ना, वो अब 2-2 साल में आ रहा है. So you're seeing a high and a low in 4 years, which typically was key. For 4 years, you will see a high, you will build a business, you will not worry about macro, and then you will see some event, but you will be prepared for it. But today, the events are more frequent, and the events are more unpredictable. And hence, that's a big challenge. What is the good side? The good side is that Indian regulator, RBI, is one of the most forward-looking regulators. Okay, so they are helping fintechs to actually run the businesses. They are penalizing the ones who are doing bad business. They are rewarding the ones who are doing good business. They're putting good governance rails around how to run NBFCs, and that allows you to create an ecosystem that is sustainable in nature.
Hello, my icebugs. Welcome to the Icebug Show with Saurabh Puranik. Here, we share character-enriching and entrepreneurial content by uncovering the minds of successful people. So, please make sure to subscribe us and share these videos with your friends and family and become a part of their growth story. I request you to note down the learnings of this video in your diary or in the comment box. So, let's grow together. Our today's guest is Abhishek Kothari sir. He is an alumnus of IIT Bombay and ISB Hyderabad. He co-founded FlexiLoans with his 3 ISB batchmates. FlexiLoans is an online lending platform that started to solve the problems that SME face in accessing quick, flexible, and adequate funds for growing their businesses. In 2021, he has featured in the list of Business World 40 under 40 list. During our conversation, I felt like my elder brother talking to me and sharing his wisdom. In this episode, we talked about his icebug story, the challenges of SMEs, and the people who mold his character, and his fear as an entrepreneur. So enjoy this episode and comment your learnings. Hello, Abhishek sir. Thank you for accepting my invite, and I welcome you on the Icebug Show with Saurabh Puranik.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you so much for having me here. I think I am more nervous than you right now.
No, sir, that's fine. Let's open this episode with my signature question. That is, what is your icebug story? You had spent around a decade outside India, and you returned to India after a decade, and you start a business. So I'm curious to know that what is your motivation to return to India and start a business? And also, can you please walk us through your entrepreneurial journey? What foundation you build over these years?
Great. So first of all, Saurabh, I mean, I think everybody has an iceberg story. So I love the name of your show. There is so much to learn from everyone around us. And my story has been really, I mean, my life has been divided into 3 parts. My first part of my life was Mera beta engineer banega. So my father told me कि तुमको engineer बनना है, and then my first 20 years was chasing the IIT dream. I failed at IIT in the first attempt. I got into it. At that time, it felt like it's a 1-year loss in my career. But then you later realize that it all makes up for it when you join an institution like IIT Bombay. My second part of the life was about discovering myself. So just like every youth does in this country, I tried multiple things. So I went to US, worked for a few years there, came back to India, then did my MBA, then went to UK. And I figured out there are some things I'm really good at, some things I'm definitely not good at. And I think that realization was very important as the second phase of my life. And then the third phase started, which was about, and in the second phase, I tried many things. And I've had two startups before this. One which was good, but I had to shut it down for some reasons. Second, which I miserably failed at. And I think in every entrepreneur story, the failure teaches you more than what the success teaches you. And I, for about 12 years, I kind of did job, then had a startup, then did some work, then had a startup, then did a job again. And most recently, I was in London. I was heading a pretty large portfolio for Fractal Analytics, and it was about 6 years that I was in London, and something happened which was about, and typically coming back to India is not a rational decision. It's always an emotional decision. Correct. You then wrap rationality on top of it. Okay? But the fact is, you want to come back to India because you've been brought up in India. So your friends are here, your families are here, your parents are here. And at some point, everybody feels like coming back to India. And I needed a really good reason to come back to India, because emotion is one, but you need practicality. And if you now go back to 2016, 2015, what was happening was, like you tried to start a company 8 years ago, and you realized that raising money was difficult. From 2016 onwards, the ecosystem has matured so much that there was more and more money coming into this. And if you had a good idea and if you had good execution potential, then raising money would be easy. And fintech was really happening in India at that point. Aadhaar was coming in, Jio was coming in, people were having smartphones. So that was the time to launch a new business in India. And for that, I came back to India. So my reason to come back to India was, let's go closer to family and still make as much money as we can there. And that's how I started FlexiLoans. And there are 4 friends who've started FlexiLoans. So it was also something of landing from a group of friends to another group of friends in India and starting this company. So I think that was a big enough reason for me to come back to India.
Okay, that's so inspiring. So my next question is that your company is giving unsecured loans to small scale businesses and MSMEs. So what strategies you develop over this period that to reduce the non-performing assets and loan default rates, especially during COVID times?
So I'll ask this question to you because giving a loan is almost like there is so much mathematics behind it, and there's so much of business models behind it. But I'll simplify it. Typically, if let's say you have a DSLR, a very nice DSLR, and your friend comes and says that I want to borrow this DSLR from you, and this is a very expensive DSLR, and how will you decide whether to give that to that friend or not? And there will be 2 or 3 things that you will judge on. If he loses the DSLR, can he buy a new one and give it to me? Does he have the means? Does he have the ability? Second is, typically, if I have given him something else in the past, have they given it back to me in time? Which is willingness to pay back. And third is, are they disciplined? That if I call them, they'll pick up. ऐसा नहीं है कि मेरा सामान लेके बोलेंगे फोन नहीं उठा रहे. And so there are 3 key factors in lending: ability to pay, willingness to pay, and discipline to pay. And typically, every business model around lending is built on creating technology and data science models to identify these traits from the underlying data. So, for example, in the case of, and the only way to reduce NPA is to not give it to a person who may not give your loan back. So, because once the money is out of the door, then you are the one who's chasing.
Exactly.
And that's always more difficult. And typically you can give the money out digitally, but you can't bring money back in digitally if the other person does not want to give it back. And so then you get into knocking the doors, physical visits, ultimate number of times of calling, chasing and things, and legal, and all of this is very costly. And so the golden rule to reduce NPA is to not give it to a person who can be a potential defaulter. And the way to identify a potential defaulter is to use extreme amount of data science and technology. So today, for example, we have about 7,000 data points that are used to decide whether to give a loan to a borrower or not. And these 7,000 data points are captured in real time, assessed in real time, and given a response in real time. So you can imagine the amount of mathematics and statistics and data science that is going into it, all to make sure that the person that who I'm giving money to, A, exists. I'm not giving it to somebody who does not exist. B, is able to pay. C, is willing to pay. And then will have the discipline to pick up my calls when I call them. And that's how you reduce NPAs. Of course, COVID has brought a very difficult time for SMEs. And we'll talk about it later in the show. But this is a time when government has also stepped in to help SMEs who are not able to pay genuinely. They're willing to pay, but they don't have the ability to pay right now. They had the ability to pay. So until they have the ability back, government has helped lending companies to put norms like restructuring. So we can restructure the loan to a longer period of time so that their EMI burden reduces every month. Government gave moratorium during the COVID period, where the customer did not have to pay EMIs during the 6 months. So I think it's a combination of technology, data science, business models, and regulatory landscape, which allows us to reduce NPAs.
Okay, but do you, apart from this data analytics, do you interview those particular business owner? Because you are also, what I feel about this, like about this answer is that you are specifically looking for a character in that businessman. So to pay that loan, or also have that ability for paying that loan. So apart from this analytics, you are also having a one-on-one communication with those business owners to analyze.
It is typically a cost decision. See, when you are giving somebody a 50,000 rupee loan, at the end of the tenure of 12 months, at best, you are going to make 5,000 rupees. Now, if the borrower is sitting in Bombay and my office is in Delhi, and if I travel to meet the borrower, my 500 rupees is gone, which means I have to have a branch. And we are a branchless model. We don't have branches. And so typically we could have a phone conversation with the borrower, but see, the entire science is about information that can be validated. Okay, so I'll tell you a scoop into what we are working on. When I'm talking to you, I realize that Saurabh is very genuine, Saurabh is very nice, honest, and I can figure out a lot of things when I'm talking to you because my brain is intercepting some data, which is your sound and your modulation, and figuring out whether you are lying or you are saying the truth. Right? Typically, in the past, कैसे loan होते थे? The guy will go into a branch, the branch manager will speak to the person, और लगेगा बंदा अच्छा है यार, business भी ठीक कर रहा है, इसको loan दे देते हैं. राइट और मैं वो जो दूसरा वो शर्मा जी हैं वो भी इसको जानते हैं तो जान पहचान बेस्ड मॉडल पे लोन हो जाता था इन अ डिजिटल वर्ल्ड वी आर ट्राइंग टू क्रिएट द सेम जान पहचान बेस्ड मॉडल तो कुछ डेटा है हमारे पास हमको पता है कि वो शर्मा जी जानते हैं उसको क्योंकि उसके एप्लीकेशन में उसने शर्मा जी का रेफरेंस दिया है वी नो दैट द पर्सन हैज रीपेड पास्ट लोन्स इन टाइम क्योंकि ब्यूरो हिस्ट्री अच्छा है एंड देन वी आर वर्किंग ऑन अ टेक्नोलॉजी वेयर बाय टॉकिंग टू यू if I record this conversation and pass it through that algorithm, it will tell me what is your truth index.
Okay.
How much of what you said was true versus lie. And typically, think of this as a simple lie detector. But हमारा brain best lie detector है, right? But yes, to translate that into an algorithm is extremely complicated. So we have lakhs and lakhs of hours of recording. And we know in that lakhs of customers who defaulted and who did not. Now we know how to train that algorithm. So we are basically breaking down every telephone conversation into signals, modulation, usage of language, pauses, confidence, and so on. And whether the information that was given was contrasting to each other in the same call or call versus form and things like that. And we are creating a truth index. Now that kind of algorithm is futuristic. It will probably take another year to build. But and that's why it's a cost decision. We are building that because we can't have a physical meeting with everyone for every loan because it's too cost intensive. And hence we want to use the digital methods to be able to do underwriting.
Okay. But so what are the challenges these small businesses are facing nowadays? And according to you, what are the solutions? Because in Flexi Loans, you are going to loans to this like growth engines of our Indian economy, because they are contributing our in terms of GDP, employment generation, or import exports. So these are the growth engines, and to make them like India make superpower, we need to strengthen them. Okay. So, but what challenges these are facing apart from financials, and what are the solutions are according to you?
Very good question. And you spoke about some metrics. So I'll tell you some metrics just so that you know how deprived the SME segment is. They contribute to about 60% of all exports, about 45% of industrial output, about 35% of GDP. Okay. And they only get about 15% of bank funding. Of, let's say, X crore rupees that banks fund, only 15% goes to SMEs, compared to 65% of output coming from SMEs.
Okay.
4 out of 10 people are employed by the SME sector. Okay, so this is gold. This is the backbone, and this is a backbone that has never been focused on. And I mean, of course, we are a poor country. So there's only so much we can invest in everyone, and there's a large pool that is below the poverty line, and so SMEs are not the focus. And if you look at developed countries, there's a lot of work that they've done to be able to bring SMEs into a financial fold. But your question is absolutely bang on, that apart from financial deprivation, what other things are they not getting? Today, if an SME has to start a business, typically anyone who has to start a business, you have to set up a business, you have to start sourcing goods, you have to start sourcing customers, then you have to service them through a supply chain, then you have to do reconciliation, billing, inventory management, and then you have to grow your business. At each stage, there is a $1 billion company sitting there as an opportunity. Today, how does an SME get access to the entire locality and people who can be their potential customers? There is no business there. I mean, people are using WhatsApp and Facebook as some methods to attract customers, but there can be a lot more that can be done. The whole sourcing. How do I, so as an SME, let's say I decide to do a hardware business. कहाँ से लाऊं मैं hardware का raw material? Best तो China में मिलता है, but a typical SME who's coming out of a small town doesn't know how to go to China. How do I procure material? And there are companies like Udaan, there are companies like Off Business that are solving some of these problems. How do I do reconciliation of my money? कुछ पैसा मैं कैश लेता हूँ, कुछ पैसा मैं यूपीआई से आता है, कुछ पैसा मेरा बैंक अकाउंट में ट्रांसफर होता है. हाउ टैक्सेशन को कैसे हैंडल करूँ? जीएसटी मुझे क्वार्टर में एक बार करना है, साल में एक बार करना है, किस रेट पे करना है? There is so much complexity in the life of an SME, and when you start your business, you will realize that at a certain stage, when you start making money, 30-40% of your time just goes in managing money, not really growing the business, but about really figuring out how this is to happen. And so there's a business sitting there in terms of a good bookkeeping tool. And you see Khata Book and some other players making some headway there. Then you go to the whole customer win back, growing the business. मैं अपने business को e-commerce पे कैसे लेके जाऊँ? I am a guy who sells offline. How can I go online? There is no real method for that. And there is companies like Meesho who are operating in that space to help help people set up shops online and sell goods. So in the life of an SME, everything is difficult. There is nothing that is easy. And hence, you will see in the SME space, forget the fintech, in the SME space, at least 10 unicorns are emerging in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's the power of India. 6 crore SMEs, underserved segment, growing at a 20% CAGR, completely deprived of financial access and any other easy ways to do business. But there is government focus, there is VC money coming in, there is entrepreneurs who are focusing on this segment. So naturally, this will get solved.
But another challenge what I'm facing is that during my business journey, what I face is that investors are not looking to a person who is done graduation from a tier 2 or tier 3 cities. They are just focusing on big and prestigious colleges. Look around those tier 2 or tier 3 cities, because there the talent lies actually, and they are solving the groundbreaking problems. So what's your take on those?
You are absolutely right. You're 100% right on everything that you said. There are entrepreneurs who are not from prestigious B schools or engineering schools. But typically, see, I have been on both sides. I have been on the recruitment side, and I've been as an employee. And typically, as a recruiter, when you are trying to hire only 5 people, then you don't want to go everywhere. You just kind of narrow your funnel and the choice matrix down by saying, okay, let's go to IITs, let's go to IIMs, let's go to ISBs, and let's figure it out from there. So part of it is also the necessity is the mother of invention. If there was no need, there was no need to actually go to the tier 2 and the tier 3. But this landscape is changing because everybody's realized that the real India opportunity is in tier 2 and 3. Okay. Today, only 30% of our business, 40% of our business comes from tier 1 cities. 60% of it comes from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And the focus is shifting from India to Bharat. Okay. Now the focus is shifting in terms of the customer segment today. Okay. But typically, the way it works is the customer segment will naturally lead to who understands this customer segment more. Somebody who's sitting in a glass cabin in Bombay and never even stepped out of Bombay, versus somebody who's lived in a tier 2 city and understands that market much better. So the two ways, you're absolutely right. And today it is difficult for somebody who has a business idea in a tier 2 city to find the right investors, to find the right circles or the networks to get into. And this is, while this is a large problem, but I think the information dissymetry is also reducing. Platforms like LinkedIn help you to reach out to investors no matter where you are from. You could, I think the path will be slightly harder, but I don't think it's a dead end. You could always reach out to potential investors directly. And I have seen immense amount of openness by investors to actually speak to potential entrepreneurs without any bias in terms of where they come from. Now, eventually what happens is when the funnel narrows down, they have 5 bets to take. They end up taking it more with ecosystems or people that they're more comfortable with. But it's just a matter of time. The other wave that will happen, Saurabh, is a lot of entrepreneurs who are being successful, like Sachin Bansal or like Kunal, they have their own money now. And they will start investing further. And they understand that it's not the degree. It's about the passion in the entrepreneur and the brightness in the idea and the execution potential.
Exactly.
And hence you will see more and more of such money going into the silent superheroes who have a business idea, have the execution potential, but haven't found the right platform as yet. But I don't know if you're following, but there are platforms like AngelList, Let's Venture, where people can put their ideas up and crowdsource money from really good angel investors and so on. So little bit of being bold, not being confined by the thoughts that I am from a tier 2 or I am from a college that does not have a double I in it. It is just about going out there, presenting yourself. And if you were to start a business idea, for example, you could easily reach out to all the speakers that you invited on your show, and they'll be very happy to participate in your journey. So it is easy, but you stepped out of your comfort zone. You took a path that is slightly more difficult, and it will work out for you. So it's just a matter of time, some boldness, and some good luck for the country.
Yeah, so that's so inspiring, and we are hopeful for that. Like people will start recognizing talent from these cities as well. So let's move on to the next question. Is that what challenges you are facing in the fintech space, and what positive changes you are seeing in this space, and that gives you the hope to continue in the fintech industry?
हर दिन challenge है यार. So challenges in the fintech space are immense because you're dealing with very precious thing called money. And the funny thing is, when you give a 100 rupee loan, the only money you make is the last EMI. Okay, because everything else is principal that is coming back. Interest is equivalent to the last EMI. So until the last EMI comes back, you don't make any profit. Okay. So the challenges are huge in terms of how to make sure that everything works like a well-oiled machinery. A lot of lending businesses, I mean, every lending business depends on macroeconomics. At what cost can I borrow money? Because I have to raise money and then I have to have my platform, and then I have to give money, and then I get money plus X%, which is my profit. So I have, the cheaper my cost of capital is, the better it is. But in the last 4 years, we've seen demonetization, we've seen GST, we've seen ILFS, we've seen COVID. So what is happening is, जो मैक्रो साइकिल पहले 5-5 साल में आता था ना, वो अब 2-2 साल में आ रहा है. So you're seeing a high and a low in 4 years, which typically was key. For 4 years, you will see a high, you will build a business, you will not worry about macro, and then you will see some event, but you will be prepared for it. But today, the events are more frequent, and the events are more unpredictable. And hence, that's a big challenge. What is the good side? The good side is that Indian regulator, RBI, is one of the most forward-looking regulators. Okay, so they are helping fintechs to actually run the businesses. They are penalizing the ones who are doing bad business. They are rewarding the ones who are doing good business. They're putting good governance rails around how to run NBFCs. And that allows you to create an ecosystem that is sustainable in nature. Or other good things, there's a lot of talent coming into fintech. People know about fintech. And so fintech is now a career opportunity. Like e-commerce was a career opportunity. Fintech is a career opportunity now. There are academic programs that are specializing on fintech, which is a great thing. India still, the credit penetration is 40% compared to 200% that's there in the US. So we have so much more to do that we need thousands and thousands of talented people to come into fintech, which is happening. There's a lot of VC money that is coming into fintech. So people have money to actually build businesses. And then, of course, the whole notion of there are examples like HDFC, ICICI, large institutions that have been built, homegrown, with over the plus 20, 25 years. And there are some great examples that are coming up. You will see some good banking institutions coming up over the next 10 years. India will move to a digital bank kind of dais, where there will be a few digital banks that will come up, where there will be no branches, but there will be a digital only method of origination and managing your bank accounts and everything. So it's exciting. And there's more good than bad, I would say. And that's why we are here.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, technology is the future, whether it comes in the form of a blockchain or something else, because technology itself changes so fast. That I remember 10 years ago when I went to college, there was nothing called as a laptop in my college. I remember day one I was going into IIT Bombay and they were putting some wires in the hole. और हमने पूछा था ये क्या है, तो बोले ये LAN cable है. तो हमने फिर जाके देखा LAN का full form क्या होता है. And that was the time. That was 2001. And today you take Wi-Fi for granted. Wi-Fi is like an essential service that you need before oxygen, I believe. And so I think technology is disrupting in a massive way. I can't imagine 15 years ago the kind of things that I had at my desk versus things that I have on my desk today. There's a wireless charger, there is a Geo dongle, there is a laptop, there is a screen, there is 3 screens connected. Us time kya hota tha? We used to take a notebook and a pen and go to a lecture, and we didn't even have digitized notes. So I think it is, you will see automated cars, you will see blockchain, you will see ride to the moon. I think in your lifetime, you will see all of that happening.
Let's hopeful for that. Let's talk about negotiation. The core of your business is money, as you said. So what steps you consciously took to develop your negotiation skills?
In a founder's life, negotiation is like morning, afternoon, evening. In mornings, you're negotiating with customers. In afternoon, you're negotiating with employees, and in evening, you're negotiating with investors. And there is, I think, and we were taught about a course in ISB on negotiation. And of course, there's a lot of theory and application around it. But at a very ground level, I believe negotiation is all about information. Okay. If I know what you want, and if I know what I want, then we will arrive at a mutually agreeable outcome, as long as you get what you want and I get what I want. If it is any more disbalanced, it's not a long-term journey. Short term, you may be more desperate than I may be more desperate than you are, and we will arrive at an end outcome somewhere. But in my, and there are 3 different, as I said, when it comes to customers, negotiation is really about understanding why do they want that? Because sometimes negotiation is all about bhaji wala, right? कि ये कम में दे दो. क्यों? And that's why when it comes to customers, we negotiate, we let the system play it. We've realized that if you have to do something at scale, you can't negotiate with every customer. You have to do something at scale. तो आपको अगर दिन के 5,000 लोन करने हैं तो you can't speak to 5,000 customers and say कि आपको क्या रेट चाहिए, क्या अमाउंट चाहिए. So we have a system fully automated that essentially tells the customer this is what you get, take it or leave it. And the system learns on itself that if more customers are leaving the offer, which means the offer is not good and you should reduce the offer. If more customers are taking the offer, which means you are leaving something on the table, and then it kind of converges to a middle point somewhere. Right? When it comes to employees, I think that's where we all believe that the real asset for a company is the employees. And there the negotiations are more about making it work for them. What is the long-term career path that we can give to our employees? And I'm kind of expanding the scope of your negotiation question because I don't think while money is the raw ingredient and we are lending money, but I think building an institution, a lending institution specifically, needs everything to come together. You skip one piece, you can't borrow right, you can't lend right, आपका risk ज़्यादा हो गया, आपके employees नहीं है, आपका technology अच्छा नहीं है, आपका underwriting model अच्छा नहीं है, one thing fails, your business shatters. And so it's important from an employee perspective. We've got one of the highest tenures of employees in the sector. We are a great place to work certified for 2 years in a row. We've got our average age in the company of an employee is 25 years. Okay. And so it's a very young organization, and understanding what millennials want, what people like you value, was a बहुत important होता है. And when it comes to investors, it's a very professional negotiation. It's about how they value my company. It's about how I value their money. And then it's a matchmaking. We will keep that aside for now because we could spend an entire show only about founder-investor interactions. But negotiation is about knowing the other party as much as you know yourself.
Okay. But what is the greatest asset to have during the negotiation?
The greatest asset to have is that you should have something to offer. Because if you don't have something to offer, then you are on the receiving end of the negotiation. Okay. So if you having a stronger point of view in a negotiation is all about having something to offer to that transaction. But I will go back to my previous point that if you have information about the other party and if you have something to offer from your side, then negotiation works much better. But negotiation is not where most of the time is spent once you have principles and systems in place. I mean, negotiating every day is a tiring task. You have to have principles, you need to have a system, and you work by the rules. You can't invent a new negotiation for every customer or every investor or every employee.
Okay. So my next question is that what are the biggest lessons that have impacted the way you work, and what are those lessons?
There are lots of lessons here. So this is a very see, one thing I have realized is I always have to hire people smarter than me. Okay, because we are building a business, and and we have a responsibility towards shareholders. We have to do innovation, and you can't do everything by yourself. So I'm always on the lookout for hiring or talking to people who are more intelligent than me, and then getting them into Flexiverse, because that means now they will do much better than I could, and the company will grow at a faster pace. The other learning is work-life balance and family. A lot of people don't talk about it, but I think a founder's journey is extremely tiring and burning. And so how you balance your physical and mental peace is very important. How do you stay physically fit and mentally fit is very important. Because otherwise you could burn out very quickly. And typically there are more failures than success. So kind of keeping yourself physically fit, meditation, spending time with your family, they are all things that I put a lot of value on, because if I can't do that, and they are my co-passengers in this journey, right? My family. So ऐसा तो हो नहीं सकता कि आप Bombay से Delhi drive कर रहे हो and you don't talk to your co-passenger. Then it's a very boring journey, right? And so keeping your family with you in this journey is extremely important. So that's my second learning: work-life balance and kind of mental fit, being mentally fit. The third is the ability to embrace the art of problem solving. Sometimes we get very, very passionate about the idea because it's my idea, it's my business. But typically, there's always an alternative point of view of looking at it.
Mm.
I keep saying this that today, I am sure there are 100 people out there who are doing something that will disrupt flexi loans in the next 3 years if I don't innovate at the same pace as they are. And so being able to continuously evolve, innovate, and continue to do problem solving is an important aspect. And if you can do these three things, if you can stay physically and mentally fit, if you can continue to do problem solving, and if you can hire better people than you, then the odds are very high that you will succeed because there's nothing that can go wrong. Somebody is there to back you up.
Mhm. Okay. So I want to ask you about your mindset. So what things would you like to say about your mindset and how it gets stronger over these years? So what situation you faced that helped you to a particular mindset to become stronger in that area? So
I mean, of course, see, as I said, there are more failures than success. So the ability to bounce back quickly is what you have to train your mind on. जब पहले क्या होता था when we started the business, if there was a setback, then we would sulk over it for 2 days, 3 days कि यार ये क्या हो गया ये वो. अब क्या होता है ना, आज कोई बुरी खबर आती है ना, तो आधे घंटे में we are back to our seats. चलो let's figure out something else. And the ability, you have to retrain your mind to focus on the success rather than the failure. And while you can kind of call it a positive attitude, but I don't think it's just being happy or being happy-go-lucky. It's about having a goalpost and constantly moving that goalpost. Sometimes you are slow, sometimes you are fast. Does not matter. It's not a sprint. It does not matter how fast the other one is going. That is another point, right? We had to really train our mind to not get swayed by what competition is saying in the news. Because you need to have your own ambition, you need to have your own plan, and you don't need to worry about what the other guy is doing. You should know exactly what the industry is moving towards, but you should not be worried about it. So the other attitudinal change that I think works really well for entrepreneurs is to have low ego, because you're a fighter. That's why you're choosing this. And if you're a fighter, then you have passion. But if you have ego, then kind of it keeps you back. It holds you back slightly. And how do you keep coming forward, shatter your ego, have conversations, network, do not feel bad about what the other person is saying, because there might be a reason why other person is saying something. Do not get bogged down by the fact कि मेरे को 16 investor ने ना बोल दिया, मेरा तो एक business idea बकवास है. ऐसा नहीं होता है. You only need one investment and one investor to believe in you, and then you're on your way. So keeping your ego low, having a positive attitude, and bouncing back from failures within a matter of hours is something that really brings the best out of entrepreneurs.
Okay, so that means adaptability is the key for an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Adaptability and agility. Okay. Because you can be adaptable. You can adapt. Darwin's theory, you can adapt over 1,000,000 years, or you can adapt over 1 year. So it's just about how quickly can you adapt, because that speed is very important. If you're slow, you don't survive.
Okay, but what is your greatest fear about and being an entrepreneur?
My greatest fear, Saurabh, is I would be devastated if I can't if I can't take or keep my team happy. Because see, what happens is when investors invest in you, they're doing a calculated risk reward position. For everybody, it's a financial investment. For us, entrepreneurs are in the journey. They have their own highs and lows, and they feel happy and sad. But there's we have a 250 member team, and these people have committed to join this journey with us with a hope that they will learn, with a hope that they will get some rewards. But the proportion of risk reward is sometimes not so much in their favor. And hence it's important to make sure that we can keep them satisfied and happy that they participated in the journey with us. And so my biggest fear would be not of failure, but of succeeding, but not being able to give those rewards to the people who joined us in the journey. I don't want to be the only recipient of my success. I want it to be for everyone. And everybody should feel that, yes, we were a part of FlexiLoans and that made some great things happen for us. And we don't worry about failure so much because that's part of life.
Okay. But sir, what resources help you to get where you are today, right now? So can you please tell us about those resources which help you to build your foundation?
For FlexiLoans and personally for me, the first thing that really helped me was coming from a middle class family. Okay, and I'm talking about personal experiences. They'll be different for everyone. My father, when I was going for my first job, my father told me कि बेटा टाइम क्या ऑफिस का? तो मैंने बोला 10 से 6 हो जाएगा. तो बोले तुम ऐसा करना, रोज सुबह 9:30 बजे जाना और 6:30 बजे निकलना. Go 30 minutes early and leave 30 minutes late. He was a government servant. He was a 10 to 5 guy. He never did that. But he said, if you go, when I go to office and I see someone who's already there, I have a different impression of them. And when I am leaving and there's somebody still working, then I have a different impression of them. While, and kind of, if you go to the bottom grassroots of that point, it's about essentially working 10% harder than others. Because then the compounding effect kicks in. That 10% really becomes much more over a longer period of time. So that, coming from a middle class family and have a father who taught you these things, was my first resource. My second resource really was my IIT Bombay degree, because it gives you a network, it gives you and things that we discussed in terms of being able to leverage that network. My third resource pool was ISB, where we did our MBA and all 4 of us met. So this was year 2008-9, financial recession का time था, markets were crashing, jobs किसी को मिल नहीं रही थी. तो the only thing we took away that year was, मेरे लिए 2 चीजें important थी उस time पे. I found my wife there. So Sneha and I got married, were in the same batch. So 2008-9 people remember because उस time recession चल रहा था. I remember because उस time I found my wife. And the second is, of course, the 4 founders of FlexiLoans met during the MBA campus there. And so ISB has a huge role to play in this. And then I think over the years, there have been a lot of people who have shaped my personality. Because hota kya, jab aap, when you join your first job, you're that matki who can be rolled in any way. You can become a surahi, you can become a matki, you can also become a nice tumbler. And so there were a lot of people who I have been really, really motivated by. And I've always been someone who looks at people and says, मुझे ऐसा बनना है. And there are parts of it, for me, मुझे लग रहा है यार सौरभ जिस तरीके से podcast कर रहा है ना, बहुत सही है. अगर मैं कभी करूँगा तो ऐसे करूँगा. And those kind of things then kind of additively make you something over the years. And the line of work that I chose was also very important, because I chose technology and data science, which turned out to be a really good resource for today's times. If I had become something else which was not as relevant today, then the idea of making FlexiLoans what it is today would not have been possible. And hence, that's also something which is an immense resource. Apart from that, of course, lots of well-wishers, friends, investments, family, they're all, of course, for everyone. But personally, for me, when I look back, I see family, IIT, ISB, and well-wishers. That's been the real resource.
So that means your surrounding made you talented and resilient.
Yes, वो कहते हैं ना, you are the your intelligence is the average of 6 people around you.
Yes, yes.
So true, absolutely true.
So, what is the most important and most pleasant moment from your business of FlexiLoan? So, can you please tell us about that moment where you feel that I achieved that, and how you achieved that? Can you please tell us about that journey too?
So, in a external validation is one of the biggest events in any entrepreneur's journey, because I have an idea, I'm building it, थोड़ा बहुत traction भी आ रहा है, but तेरे को अच्छा लग रहा है कि नहीं लग रहा है is important, because so our first investment that we raised was the first exhilarating moment for us. And this was Asia's largest seed round that any fintech raised. We raised a $15 million round. This was Feb 2016. My other three co-founders were in India. I was in London. And we were discussing about this idea. One of the founders, Deepak, was visiting London. And we started talking about this idea. This was end of 2015. And we then started working on this idea. हमने अपना पूरा savings लगा दिया इसके अंदर. We created a platform. We started doing loans. And we were doing about 25-30 lakh per month loans. Today we are at about 50 crore per month loans. उस टाइम हम 25 लाख पर मंथ का लोन कर रहे थे across 20-30 borrowers. Uber, Ola के drivers को लोन देते थे हम उस टाइम. And Sanjay Nair, who was on the board at ISB, and he was also a regular speaker at many financial events. And so we were constantly in touch with him to take mentorship, guidance, and keeping him apprised. And there was a time when it was like the best of everything coming together, when Sanjay and a group of his friends, so Sanjay, Vikram Sood, Anil Jagia, Narayan Sheshadri, Guresh Chadha, they were all looking to invest in a fintech platform. And there we were, 4 ISB guys running that platform in the exact space that they wanted to be. And the combination happened. And it happened such that over a period of 1 month from discussions to closure, and I moved, the news of fundraise came out, and I moved back to London, to India the next month. And so what did it tell us? It told us that, hey, what you're doing is right. There are these group of 10 bankers who have run banks. Sanjay was the CEO of Citibank India. And they've invested in you because they see value in what we are doing. And that suddenly boosts your confidence 1000x, because now you know that there is something in it and we are up for a great journey. That was the first exhilarating moment. After that, fundraising becomes normal. कि भाई ठीक है, एक और round raise करना है, एक और round raise करना है. The other best moment that I remember is the fact that we completed 4 years, and the first employee who had joined us was still with us. Oh. And I'll tell you, building businesses and building teams is an incredibly difficult task, especially keeping people motivated, giving them career paths, financially, emotionally, and today our early employees, at least, we know their families, they know us because they took a bet on us. उन्होंने बोला यार चलो FlexiLoan ज्वाइन कर लो, ठीक लग रहे हैं बंदे, कुछ तो कर लेंगे. And so the joy of creating a team where, for example, our latest campus batch completed 2 years with us without a single attrition. Typically campus batches एक साल में 50% attrite हो जाते हैं, and you know this more than me कि होता ही है ये तो. And things like these we really value because that we know कि यार culture ठीक बन रहा है company का. There is a family feeling, and that's why we always keep saying FlexiLoan's family, because we are a family. And that moment of exhilaration comes in when especially you notice things like there's somebody who's with us for 4 years, there's somebody who's completed 2 years as an entire batch, you've been rewarded great place to work. Creating a team where you find friends, you find partners, you start companies together, that is very exciting. It almost makes you feel कि यार ये कर दिखाया तो कुछ भी कर सकते हैं.
So yeah, so I can relate to that constant validation part, because as a podcast host, the constant validation is a part of my journey. Because if I'm pitching to one guest, so if they are coming to my show, that means they are validating something, and that means that they can resonate with me. So I can relate to your point.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally understand that.
Yes. So my next question is that what have you read or listened to you recently that has inspired you and help us to keep going forward?
I typically read a lot of things. Recently, I heard your podcast, which was good. So
thank you for that.
And I recently read a book called Solve for Happy. As I was telling you, I believe that if you're happy, then you can achieve great things. And there's a book called Solve for Happy by Mo Gawdat. It's it's an excellent book. It tells you how you can retrain your mind by being rationally happy all the time. And I recommend everyone to read that book. It's a great book. There is a lot of other things that I've read recently, but this one stands out in terms of something that I would ask everyone to read.
Okay. So my next question is that what one advice you will give to the aspiring entrepreneurs who are trying to enter in fintech space? But one advice.
Especially in the fintech space, what I would advise people to do is identify one very small problem area, because India is a market where every small problem has millions of people who can benefit from it. Fintech is so huge that sometimes when I speak to entrepreneurs, I realize that they're trying to do too many things, and that leads to loss of focus, that leads to need of money very, very quickly, and that leads to also lack of single vision. So my advice would really be to not get distracted, identify one problem area that you've observed around you, pick that up, scale that to one city, and then you will see automatic scale coming for the country.
Okay, so focus on one thing and follow this and execute step by step.
Execute step by step, yeah.
Okay, so lastly, what did you feel about this interview?
As I said, मैं तेरे को शुरू में भी बोला था, I think I've been impressed by the kind of questions you have, and I think I felt that you've also read a lot about SME and fintech before you conducted this interview. So I really appreciate the hard work that you put in. I also believe that platforms like what you are doing, Saurabh, it really matters not to you and me, but to many other people. Like you said, tier 2 mein somebody, and my family lives in Udaipur. So my cousins who are there, do they know who Sachin Bansal is? Do they know who Kunal Shah is? Do they know who the greatest entrepreneurs of this country are? They know the companies, but they don't know the people, and they don't know the story. And सभी कुछ स्टोरी में है, राइट? एंड आउटकम सबको पता है, राइट? एवरीथिंग इज अबाउट अ मैसिव एग्जिट और अ मैसिव ग्रेट कंपनी और एन एक्विजिशन, बट द स्टोरी इज वेयर द लर्निंग इज. And the way you have positioned this podcast as what you said at the start, that you want to live the story with me, I was very excited to then share the story with you. And I think you have a very good approach. I feel very happy that even if one person would listen to this podcast and feel that they've taken away one learning from it, then as an entrepreneur, my job is done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the compliment. With this, we are coming to the end of this episode, and I feel that it's very powerful and thought-provoking. I will say this episode happened, and I'm hopeful that you enjoyed this episode, and we will have more conversation in the near future, and can transform our India to Bharat, basically. So with this,
I really appreciated the conversation, Saurabh. I do believe that people like you are the ones who will build and make India and everyone in the country proud. So keep doing the good work, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you, sir.